Hello everybody, my name is Serious Gamer and welcome back to another 1 to 5 scale Memorial Fleet review. Today I am showing off my Memorial fleet for the Battle of the Coral Sea as today, May 8th, 2022 marks the 80th anniversary since the end of the Battle of the Coral Sea in May of 1942. Now, again, another disclaimer that I have to add for some reason. I do not support any of the actions taken by the Japanese during the Second World War, and honestly, many of the Americans as well, unless it is, of course, winning the Pacific Theater, but that's about it. And there's some pretty badass moments in World War II, but yeah, I do not condone anything Japan did during the Second World War. Or, yeah. So, of course, where's my microphone? Alright. The Battle of the Coral Sea from the 4th to the 8th of May, 1942, was a major naval battle between the Imperial Japanese Navy and naval and air forces of the United States and Australia. Taking place in the Pacific Theater of World War II, the battle is historically significant as the first action in which aircraft carriers engaged each other, and the first in which the opposing ships neither sighted nor fired directly upon one another. In an attempt to strengthen their defensive in the South Pacific, the Japanese decided to invade and occupy Port Moresby in New Guinea and Tulagi in the southeastern Solomon Islands. The plan, Operation Mo, involved several major units of Japan's combined fleet. They used 2 fleet carriers, a light carrier, and a light carrier to provide air cover for the invasion forces under the overall command of Admiral Shigeyoshi Inouye. The U.S. learned of the Japanese plan through signal intelligence and sent 2 U.S. Navy carrier task forces to the joint Australian-American cruiser force to oppose the offensive under the overall command of U.S. Admiral Frank J. Fletcher. On the 3rd and the 4th of May, Japanese forces successfully invaded and occupied Tulagi, although several of their supporting warships were sunk or damaged in surprise attacks by aircraft from the U.S. fleet carrier Yorktown. Now aware of the presence of the enemy carriers in the area, Japanese fleet carriers advanced towards the Coral Sea with the intention of locating and destroying Allied naval forces. On the evening of the 6th of May, the 2 carrier forces came within 70 nautical miles of each other. Unbeknownst to anyone, on the 7th of May, both sides launched airstrikes. Each mistakenly believed that they were attacking their opponent's fleet carriers, but were actually attacking other units, with the U.S. sinking Japanese light carrier Shoho, and the Japanese sinking a U.S. destroyer and heavily damaging a fleet oiler, which was later scuttled with it. The next day, each side found and attacked the other's fleet carriers, with the Japanese fleet carrier Shokaku damaged, and the U.S. fleet carrier Lexington critically damaged and later scuttled, and the fleet carrier Yorktown damaged. With both sides having suffered heavy losses in aircraft and carriers damaged or sunk, the 2 forces disengaged and retired from the area. Because of the loss of the carrier air cover, Inouye recalled the Port Moresby invasion fleet with the intention of trying again later. Although a victory of the Japanese in terms of ships sunk, the battle proved to be a strategic victory for the Allies in several ways. The battle marked the first time since the start of the war that a major Japanese advance had been checked by the Allies. More importantly, the Japanese fleet carriers Shokaku and Zubikaku, the former damaged and later and the latter with depleted aircraft complement, were unable to participate in the Battle of Midway the following month. But Yorktown participated in the Allies' side, which made for rough parity in aircraft between the adversaries that contributed significantly to the U.S. victory. The severe losses in carriers at Midway prevented the Japanese from reattempting to invade Port Moresby by sea and helped prompt their losses in carriers. Midway prompted their ill-fated offensive of the Kokoda Track. 2 months later, the Allies took advantage of Japan's resulting strategic vulnerability in the South Pacific and launched the Guadalcanal campaign. That and the New Guinea campaign eventually broke the Japanese defenses in the South Pacific and were significant contributors to Japan's ultimate surrender, marking the end of World War II. So yeah, overall, the battle itself was very important. Not only was it the first major naval engagement in which neither side actually saw each other, it also marked... It didn't really mark much, but it did help the U.S. Navy out a lot in defeating the Imperial Japanese Navy. So, as is, at least so far, tradition for these memorial fleets, I have the fleet here. Of course, this is meant to pay honor to those who fought the Imperial Japan during the Second World War, as well as the Nazis in the European campaigns. But for now, I'm mostly focusing on the Pacific Theater, mostly because there's more of a naval premise around it, making it much easier for me to figure out what's going on and actually create memorial fleets and stuff like that. Originally, I was supposed to have all of the aircraft that were present in the battles for my controls. But unfortunately, I didn't get around to completing all of the aircraft, and I only really have the main fighting unit for the Americans. Although I do eventually hope to get everything done and then maybe release a few aircraft tutorials, as well as tutorials for most of the classes of ships in this memorial. Some of the ship designs in this aren't final. I may revamp a lot of these. There's also the problem of camouflage. I was not able to get around to that as soon as I would have liked to. And so all of the ships are just in a base naval gray. Anyway, let's get into it. So starting off at the beginning, we have the main fighting groups, the USS Lexington class fleet carrier, and the Uss Yorktown. This is a new design for my Yorktown class. I use the same models. I used these same models in my Doolittle Raid memorial, and I will use these same models in my Battle of Midway as well. Both carriers carried their own complement of F-4F Wildcats, SPD Dauntless dive bombers, and TBD Devastator torpedo bombers. Yorktown carried 17 Wildcats, 18 dive bombers, 17 scout bombers, and 13 torpedo bombers, while Lexington carried 18 dive bombers, an unknown amount of Wildcats, 17 scout bombers, and 12 torpedo bombers. With them are the four Sims-class destroyers USS Morris, USS Anderson, USS Hammond, and USS Russell, which are then followed by the USS New Orleans, USS Minneapolis, and USS Astoria, with the USS Portland and the USS Chester. I'm going to go back to the front. USS Morris, commanded by Harry B. Jarrett. Anderson, commanded by John K. B. Ginder. Hammond by Arnold E. True, and Russell by Glenn R. Hartwig, with New Orleans being captained by Howard H. Good, Astoria being captained by Francis W. Scanlon, and Minneapolis by Frank J. Lowry. Portland commanded by Benjamin Perlman, and Chester by Thomas M. Schock. Then we have the screening, led by the USS Phelps, commanded by Lieutenant Edward L. Beck. The Farragut-class destroyers Farragut, Dewey, Monaghan, and Alwyn, all Pearl Harbor veterans. Farragut, commanded by George P. Hunter. Dewey by Charles F. Chillingworth, Jr. Monaghan by William P. Buford, and Alwyn by Robert H. Rogers. Then we have the support group, Task Group 17.3, commanded by Rear Admiral John Gregory Grace of the Australian Navy. We have Heavy Cruiser Chicago, commanded by Howard D. Bode. And then HMS Australia, commanded by H.B. Farncombe. And the HMS Hobart, commanded by H.L. Howden of the both. These last two ships are by the Royal Australian Navy. Neither ship are a final-ish product. I kind of built them in a bit of a rush. And then we have the fueling group with the USS Sims and the USS Warden. I think it's backwards, yes. And then the Oilers Neosho, another Pearl Harbor veteran. And the Tippecanoe, who was completely fine after the engagement. We also have the seaplane tender Tangier, commanded by George H. DeBon, with the Patrol Squadron 71 and Patrol Squadron 72 of 6 PBY-5 Catalinas each. I have those built on a different world. I do not have the submarine tender USS Griffin. She's supposed to be built, but she is not. I do not know why. Hold on, who are these two? Destroyers. Mahan-class destroyers Perkins and Walk. These are the destroyers of the Australian cruiser force, and then these are Sims and Warden. And then we have a bunch of U.S. destroyers. We have S-class submarines 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, and 47, as well as 37, 38, 39, 40, and 41. The first group being commanded by Lieutenant Commander Elmer E. Yeomans. I think I'm saying that right. And then the second group being commanded by Commander Ralston B. Van Zandt. Task Force 44 was temporarily assigned to the Task Force 17, or 17.3 above the cruiser group. And then we move on to the Japanese side, which was significantly harder to do. Of course, if you'd like, you can request any of these to be a tutorial. I think I already have a tutorial up for Lexington, but I intend to make a tutorial for all 3 Yorktowns instead of just one, like I have. I'm probably going to butcher a lot of these Japanese names, so hang in here with me. We have the Ijan Shokaku, commanded by Takagi Jojima, and her air group of 21 Mitsubishi A6M Zeke fighters, 20 Aichi D3A Type 99 Val dive bombers, and 19 Nakajima B5N Type 97 Kate torpedo bombers. Zuikaku was commanded by Ichiki Yokagawa with 25 Mitsubishi A6M Zeke fighters, 22 Aichi D3As, and 20 Nakajima B5N Kates. Followed by Cruiser Division 5, containing Miyoko and Heguro, Destroyer Division 5 of Ushio and Akibono, Destroyer Division 7, Ariake, Yugure, Shirietsuyu, and Shigure with the oiler Toho Maru. We have the Invasion Force, transport Azumasan, Azumasan Maru. I think I'm saying that right. 2 mine layers. Okinoshima and Koi Maru. I was unable to get Koi. 2 destroyers. Oh wait, no, this is Koi. Kikuzuki and Yuzuki. And we have 5 minesweepers. I just used a basic minesweeper design because I couldn't find pages for all of them. And then we have 2 subchasers, Toshimaru and Tamamaru. And we have light cruiser Tenryu and Tetsuda with seaplane tenders Kamikawa Maru and Kiyokawa Maru, with 3 small gunboats Kijo Maru, Psyche Maru, and Nikai Maru. And we have the light carrier Shoho, sunk, with 8 Mitsubishi A6M Zeros, 4 Mitsubishi A5M Clyde fighters, 6 Nakajima B5N Type 97s. We have 4 heavy cruisers, Aoba, Keiko, Kinugasa, and Furutaka. And then we have the destroyer Suzanami. Then we have 5 Imperial Japanese Navy fast transports, and we have 6 Japanese Army transports. I couldn't find Wikipedia pages for any of them, so I just used a simple design that hopefully fits well for the majority of them. We have 5 minesweepers, of which are missing. Of course they are. We have the mine layer Sugaru, the tugboat Ushima. Then we have the oilers Hoyomaru and Iro. I only have one of them here, because I'm a piece of shit. We have light cruiser Yubari. And we have 6 destroyers Oite, Asanagi, Yuzuki, Mutsuki, Mochizuki, and Yayoi, and 1 or 2 unidentified patrol boats. Then we have the patrol and scouting group I-21, I-22, I-24, I-28, and I-29, with RO-33 and RO-34 for the Japanese side. And in other aircraft for the Japanese side are the 25th Air Flotilla with 17 Mitsubishi G4M Type 1 Betty attack land bombers, the Tinian Air Group with 18 Mitsubishi A6M Zeros, 5 Mitsubishi A5Ms Clydes, the Yokohama Air Group with 12 Kawanishi H6K Mavis reconnaissance seaplanes, and 5 Nakajima A6M2N roof seaplane fighters. And then the Genzen Air Group with 25 Mitsubishi G3M Type 96 Nell land attack bombers. For the Allied, we have the 8th Pursuit Group of 26 P-39 Airacobras at Archer Field, Brisbane, with the 35th Fighter Squadron and the 36th Fighter Squadron. The 49th Pursuit Group with 90 P-40 Tomahawk fighters at Darwin, with the 7th Fighter Squadron, 8th Fighter, and 9th Fighter Squadrons. We also have the 3rd Light Bombardment Group with the 8th Light Bombardment with A-24 Banshees at Port Moresby, 13th Light Bombardment Squadron with B-25 Mitchell Bombers, and the 90th Light Bombardment Squadron with B-25 Mitchells. We also have the 19th Bombardment Group with 17 Boeing B-17 bombers at Townsville with the 30th Bombardment Squadron, 40th, 93rd, and the 435th Bombardment Squadron, with the 26th Bombardment Group with 48 Martin B-26 Marauders. The Royal Australian Air Force, containing the number 11th Squadron with consolidated BBY Catalinas, the 20th Squadron with Catalinas, the 24th Squadron with 3 CAC Wirraways at Townsville, number 32 with Lockheed Hudsons, and the 75th with 3 Curtiss P-40s at Port Moresby. The Port Moresby garrison have the 35th Infantry Brigade, 39th Infantry Battalion, 49th, and the 53rd with the 13th Field Regiment, 23rd Heavy Anti-Aircraft Battery, Detachment 1st Independent Company, the 30th Infantry Brigade Signal Section, and the 30th Infantry Brigade HQ Defense Platoon. The Moresby Fixed Defenses include the Moresby Fixed Defense Fortress Engineers and the Fixed Defense Anti-Aircraft Auxiliary with 6 3-inch guns. The 1st Army Troops, 7th Field Company, 1st Section 1st Mechanical Equipment Company, 8th Military District Survey Section, 8th Military District Bomb Disposal Section, and a bunch of other guys that I am not going to say, but I will probably leave a point. I'll probably leave a link in the description for the Battle of the Coral Sea Wikipedia page, as well as the order of battle that I used for this. New designs. I have the Uss Yorktown. This is different from the Enterprise tutorial that I have out already, which I do intend to make a tutorial for soon. I also slightly updated the hangar area. This new model isn't completely symmetrical in the back, unlike the others. There isn't really anything new with the Lexington model. You can probably still use the same one that I have uploaded. Meanwhile, I do have new models for the Shokaku and the Zuikaku, these being them, so you can see a replacement tutorial for the Shokaku that I have. And I have the Miyoko class cruisers, as well as the Takao class cruisers that I already have a tutorial for. I have several Japanese destroyer models that are hopefully coming soon. If you guys would like any specific Japanese destroyers, then let me know. I have models for the Tenryu class light cruisers, as well as the brand new model for the light carrier Shoho, and then all 4 of the first Japanese heavy cruisers. I think they all look really nice, although they do need a slight update. Or sure, if you'd like a tutorial for the for these things, I will probably make one. But this isn't supposed to be a show-off video. This is meant to pay respects to the men who served, to the men and women who served during the Second World War on either side of the American Pacific Theater, American-Japanese Pacific Theater. If you guys know anybody who fought during the Pacific Theater, let me know down in the comments below. Maybe give me a request of any specific ship that you might want to see a tutorial for, whether it be family, linked, like you had a family member who served on a specific ship. I have several rebuilds for ships like Essex and Ryuho and Ryujo. I also have to build the Unryus. But yeah, that does it for this video. I hope you guys all enjoyed. I hope you were able to pay respect to those who fought in the Pacific Theater during the Second World War. And I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.